So I'm going to tell you the story of what inspired Hero Rings. My brother Spencer Milo is my hero and was the inspiration for Hero Rings. Spence and I were both born up in Seattle, Washington, and we had well-established military ties in our family. During World War II, both of our grandfathers served in the armed forces. One as an Army rifle instructor and the other as a Navy submariner. We also had two uncles and an aunt who served, one in the Navy and two in the Army. We were not only brought up to respect our veterans, but to understand that freedom was not free, nor was it to be taken for granted. Following 9/11, like so many other Americans, my brother's interest in enlisting was really ignited, to say the least. He came home one day and let me know that he joined the Army as an airborne infantryman. So a couple weeks went by and I shaved his head for him. He then reported to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic training. During a visit right before Spencer deployed, I had asked him for one of his dog tags, not knowing what this would actually turn into down the road. Spence reached down into a chest at the floor of his bunk and he handed me one of his dog tags on a ball chain. Shortly after that visit, Spencer deployed to Iraq. About 5 months into his tour, my brother suffered a pretty bad concussion after being tossed around in the turret of his Humvee as it was crashing. I think what he told me was, oh, little Milo just decided to hit everything he could, including the 50 cal, before almost getting ejected from the turret or something like that. He had a good sense of humor about it, but it was a serious injury. After about 24 hours of having suffered the first of what would be many traumatic brain injuries, they sent him back to work. Spence completed 11 more months in Iraq before he came home. I remember that vividly, the homecoming. My family, myself, Spencer's amazing wife, Sarah. We all flew out to Fort Bragg to welcome him home. He was quickly taken off to undergo a traumatic brain injury rehabilitation program. Before we could even really celebrate his return, he had been told that the concussive force from the accident had created a rapidly developing brain tumor. They told him that he only had 6 months to live. I remember thinking, what? I mean, this was devastating for all of us. Spencer the most. I can't even imagine the things running through his mind. And I also remember clenching that dog tag around my neck, kind of unconsciously, just gripping it and hoping that, this news was wrong, because Spencer was really in the prime of his life. He was so healthy and so strong. And then over a few months, he was bedridden and taking, 20-something pills multiple times a day, and he'd really become a shell of the brother I grew up with, which was really sad. He still has zero recollection of his own wedding. At this point, he'd gained 80-something pounds, and I think he referred to himself as the fat blob. You could tell he was really hurting inside, but he kept a smile on and really pushed through, which was hugely beneficial to all of us around him, and I think he knew that. As a family, knew that we had to do something, anything. So we petitioned the Army for a second opinion. After some time, we were able to get him to the University of California at San Francisco. And after about 3 months there, the doctors told us that he had been misdiagnosed, that his tumor wasn't cancerous or life-threatening. I was like, whoa. It's like, a massive relief, but you talk about an emotional roller coaster from hell, that was it. A little bit after we got all that good news, Spencer amazed us again. He told us he was going to redeploy. When you go from being told you're going to be dead to, no, you can be alive now, Spencer told me that you just want to get back to life. And then he dropped some really serious little brother knowledge on me. He said, life is service. We are put on this earth to get the most out of it, but most importantly, to give the most in life. This was a serious dog tag clinching proud brother moment. He calls that servant leadership and is something he lives on a daily basis. Spencer returned to active duty and was deployed to Afghanistan in 2010. At this point, Spencer and I were really close, closer than ever. I think it was January of 2011, and some time had gone by. I hadn't heard from Spence in quite a while. So finally the phone rang and the voice on the other end of the line wasn't Spence, and the news wasn't good. While Spence and his unit were on patrol, apparently a teenage suicide bomber had detonated himself just feet away from Spence and his platoon. The explosion sent shrapnel into the left side of Spencer's face and all over his body. They called it organic shrapnel. Hearing that your brother has been blown up in those circumstances is a horrifying thing to even try and comprehend. I was petrified, and it's still a difficult thing for me to talk about. In fact, publicly, this is probably one of the first times I talked about it. Shortly after Spence was medevaced and they kind of got him into the infirmary, they found that he had seriously injured his spine, lost a bunch of his hearing, and got another really serious concussion. The years that followed that were really difficult for our whole family, but Spencer in particular. He seemed angry, he seemed helpless, alone. We came to find out that he was very suicidal. And at this point, nobody had really mentioned anything about post-traumatic stress, that he may be dealing with some of that too. At that point, he was living in and out of a bottle of booze, a bottle of prescription pain pills. His physical wounds had caused him pain, but it was really that post-traumatic stress and the debilitating traumatic brain injury that were tearing him up inside. Spence was medically retired in 2013. That was another day that I recall clinching his dog tag in my hand and selfishly feeling relieved that he wouldn't deploy ever again. I do feel guilty about that and a little sad, because I know that that was his passion. And I'm sure he would say that if he could go back and deploy again today, that he would in a heartbeat. Ultimately, Spencer got help from the NICO. It's the National Intrepid Center of Excellence at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Between that help and Spencer's incredible will to carry on and overcome all this stuff, we found some hope finally, that Spence could get better, and he sure did. It was this time period that I really identified Spencer as my hero, in every aspect of my life. He had overcome so much that it really made my problems seem insignificant. Even though he'd retired from the military, his service was far, far from finished. Today, Spence is doing amazing. He has his wife who stuck by his side through all this, his two beautiful children, Zoe and Gunnar, and he serves as the Director of Veterans Programs, Communications and Strategic Development for the Marcus Institute of Brain Health. My brother is my hero, and wearing his dog tags through all these years has helped me keep a sense of connection to Spencer. Clinching that dog tag from time to time gave me strength when I needed it. It gave me patience when I had none. It gave me perspective when things were insane, and so much more. We all have heroes in our lives, and I think it's crucial that we honor them more than once or twice a year. In fact, I think we need to honor them daily, which is why Hero Rings exist. It might not be your brother like it is for me. It could be your mom or dad, another service member. It could be the whole branch of the military, first responder, your husband or wife. I know that my brother's wife is certainly one of his heroes. Another important part I wanted to build into Hero Rings was giving you the ability to become a hero by honoring your hero. And we do that by donating $5 of every ring purchased from the website to benefit Gold Star families. These are families of American soldiers who've given their life in defense of their country. Take a moment and really think who's impacted your life in a positive way. Make a list. Who are your heroes? And if you feel compelled, honor them with a hero ring. Be a hero, guys. Honor yours.